think he's probably signing some checks or something in the office, probably. You know, so,
Right.
anyway, let's look at 32. Now, this is where Esau and they comes back, and could you imagine though how you spend all those years, because you've deceived your brother, or deceived your family, or whatever like that, and you've lived with that all those years. And then when he finds out that his brothers come in to meet him with 400 soldiers, that would get your attention, don't you think?
Have all that guilt on him.
So we'll see here where Jacob then takes Leah and the concubines and the children and puts them up. He put layers of people in front of him, so that whenever Esau comes, if he's going to look for Jacob to kill, he has to go through all these different layers of people that he put first. But he saved Rebekah for the very last part, his favorite one. But then, of course, but then he pronounces death over her with a statement that'll be interesting for you to see. And she actually dies in childbirth with Benjamin. So when you really get into this whole story, it just goes to show you what life can do to you, and all those years that he suffered through that from his deception. Then, and as soon as they meet, Esau comes and hugs and kisses his brother. And then they make their own covenant together. Good morning, good morning. Then they make their own covenant together.
All right, just lazy. Just plain lazy. I didn't get a shower or get dressed until about 11 o'clock.
On Monday?
No, Sunday. Yeah, it should have been Monday.
And so
Days
they
did not get started.
they make their covenant together as we go through. So there is a lot in this information here. But just think about it. If you've ever got angry at a family member or something had happened, and you think all those years, how will we ever be able to bring our relationship back? And like I said, he went 20 years thinking his brother would kill him one
It's a
day.
long time.
And then we just see how all that starts to unfold. And then all the covenants that are made and this whole world. So anyway, that's where we are with where we're getting started today. Brandon and Elizabeth won't be here today because they were up late helping somebody. So that part. And I was telling Ed and Patrick that I have the opportunity Monday to do a funeral for a lieutenant colonel who was in World War II
Oh, wow,
doing fighter jets,
nice.
and all those jets that he flew in was in World War II and the Vietnam War at 102.
Oh, he's 102.
102.
Oh,
He's
I didn't miss him.
reading over the thing, and I thought that I didn't know where that funeral home is, the one right there close to Coastal. And I didn't realize that's Browning Maxwell funeral home. But anyway, we think that there's not that many people who are alive anymore with World War II.
Oh,
Especially at that age. Yeah. So
That'd be close soldier.
102.
102.
And I died at home. And
Born January
love
4th.
fishing and music. Okie dokie, let's, John, if you want to open us with prayer, you got any announcements or anything that we need?
No. Heavenly Father, we come to you in prayer through Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit. Thank you very much for this opportunity that you provide us and Pastor leads us through reading the Bible, talking about the Bible, and sharing the Bible. Thank you very much for everyone who has come, and hopefully for those who are on the road to coming, let them get here safely. We have so much to be thankful for, Some we know about, some we don't. But let us bless you every single day, always waking up to you and looking up to you for guidance. All this we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Okie dokie. So let's get started with the hello.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And also, we're on Genesis chapter 32. Esau comes to meet Jacob. So we'll give you a minute.
That's okay, I got it.
Got it? Part of this too, we'll see where Jacob meets God, walk up and down Jacob's ladder. That's a great song too, you know, that very anointed song. Okay, let's go ahead and start, please.
Genesis 32. My heading is Jacob prepares to meet Esau. Jacob also went on his way, and the angel of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is the camp of God." So he named that place, starting out already,
I know.
Muhammad. 3. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom. He instructed them, "This is what you are to say to my lord Esau. Your servant Jacob says, I have been staying with Laban and have remained there till now. I have cattle and donkeys, sheep and goats, male and female servants. Now I am sending this message to my lord that I may find favor in your eyes." 6. When the messengers returned to Jacob, they said, "We went to your brother Esau, and now he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him."
That scared you right there, wouldn't
I think I turned around.
it? Yeah, I think it would.
Pack up the tents, let's go. 7. In great fear and distress, Jacob divided the people who were with him into 2 groups, and the flocks and the herds and the camels as well. He thought, if Esau comes and attacks one group, the group that is left may escape. 9. Then Jacob prayed, "O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you who said to me, 'Go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper.' I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. I had only one staff when I crossed this Jordan, but now I have become 2 camps. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come and attack me, and also the mothers with their children. But you have said, I will surely make you prosper, and will make your descendants like the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted." 13. He spent the night there, and from what he had with him, he selected a gift for his brother Esau. 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows and 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He put them in the care of his servants, each herd by itself, and said to his servants, "Go ahead of me and keep some space between the herds." He instructed the one in the lead, when my brother Esau meets you and asks, who do you belong to, and where are you going, and who owns all these animals in front of you? Then you are to say, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau, and he is coming behind us. 19. He also instructed the second and third and all the others who follow the herds. You are to say the same thing to Esau when you meet him. And be sure to say, your servant Jacob is coming behind us. For he thought, I will pacify him with these gifts I am sending on ahead. Later, when I see him, perhaps he will receive me. So Jacob's gifts went on ahead of him, but he himself spent the night in the camp.
So what he really did, he was trying to buy his friendship back, his family title back, isn't he? So that's pretty self-explanatory how he did it, but just stop and think about, like I said earlier, that look at all the years that went by after the deception, that he had to deal with that every day. So you have to stop and think, have you somewhere along in your life held something to give somebody, or you've done something to give someone, and you just wish that that would have never happened? Have you ever had that happen to you? And then come to find out that somewhere along the line that you don't even remember what you did in so many different ways. And you see that in families. I've done so many deathbed conversations with people, and they would say, they maybe say, could we just talk, away from the family or whatever like that. And the things they would say would be like, I wished I would have spent more time with my family. Or I wished I hadn't done that. Maybe they did some sin or whatever like that. And they wanted to get that out, and then you keep that confidential and all away from family stuff. But there's so many things that can torment. Fear is one of the worst things is fear. And it can carry a life full of fear and all. And so even though we read this story, you have to stop and think, have I ever been a Jacob? Or have I ever been an Esau? Or both? You see what I'm saying? And that's what Bible study is about anyway, isn't it? Because if this is the living word, it's going to show you by the conviction of the Holy Spirit. If there's something within you, or any of us, that's holding anything back, even against your own self. That sometimes people think, well, I can't forgive myself for such and such, and yet it says, well, God forgave you, so what makes you God, right? So even though we just read through this, John did, and we see that, and it seems simple, but you're talking about 20 years. You can look from one verse to another, and there might be 500 years between those two verses of things that are happening with people in the Bible and all. And you need to stop and think about that, because you think, well, I just read these chapters. That could be years and years in there. And just within what you just read. And in this case, it was 20-some years in that. Any questions or comments? Now we see, this is a good part here too, where Jacob wrestles with God. And you know the story of this because you know the song, Jacob's Ladder. Is where this come from.
22. That night Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of Jabbok. 23. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched, and he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, let me go, for it is daybreak. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. 27. The man asked him, what is your name? Jacob, he answered. Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome. 29. Jacob said, please tell me your name. But he replied, why do you ask my name? Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, it is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared. 31. The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon.
So they don't, a Jew don't want to eat that part of the lamb because of this reason here. But what you're seeing here is where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob would be the ones where all the son, as many multitudes as the sand is the sea, and so forth like that. For him to do that, he changes his name. Is the old nature is Jacob, and the new nature is Israel. So that God changes his name to that. So from here on, you'll see some parts where it talks about Jacob when Jacob's back in his old nature, and you'll see Israel where he is who he is today, basically.
Is his hip similar to Paul's thorn? Was it Paul who had it?
It is similar to that, because he said, my grace is sufficient. Because that's what God told him. He said, my grace is sufficient, so he never took the thorn away, but no one knows what that thorn was.
Right.
Some say that it because he had weak eyes. Some people think. I told him he probably had a mother-in-law. So, I don't know about that. You hear all kinds of stories.
Well, you keep on digging yourself.
I know.
Digging your hole.
Keeps me in trouble. Jacob and Esau meet. But do you see the story as it unfolds in here? I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, really, in this part. But the big part there is to just know how he wrestled with God. And I heard someone say one time, another minister, that we all have angels. And angels, you may have one that is with you through the evening and one that comes in the day. I don't know, I haven't seen that in the Bible, but and I thought, well, that would be different. But then you see this where he says that it's getting daylight and I have to leave. So it makes you wonder if there is a change in that. So I'm not saying that it's total scripture, but then when you look at this, and he's wrestling with God, but that's when he changes his name. Because now he's moving in from Jacob to Israel, which starts developing on into the many multitude of children, people. Okay, 33.
33. Jacob looked up, and there was Esau, coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the 2 female servants. He put the female servants and the children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph in the rear. He himself went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. But Esau ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept.
I bet he sighed then, take a deep breath, get over there.
Then Esau looked up and saw the women and children. Who are these with you? He asked. Jacob answered, they are the children God has graciously given your servant. Then the female servants and their children approached and bowed down. Next Leah and her children came and bowed down. Last of all came Joseph and Rachel, and they too bowed down. Esau asked, "What's the meaning of all these flocks and herds I met?" "To find favor in your eyes, my lord," he said. But Esau said, "I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself." 10. "No, please," said Jacob, "if I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God. Now that you have received me favorably. Please accept the present that was brought to you, for God has been gracious to me, and I have all I need." And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted. 12. Then Esau said, "Let us be on our way, I'll accompany you." 13. But Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are tender, and that I must care for the ewes and cows that are nursing their young. If they are driven hard, just one day, all the animals will die. So let my Lord go ahead of his servants, while I move along slowly at the pace of the flocks and herds before me and the pace of the children until I come to my Lord in Seir." 15. Esau said, "Then let me leave some of my men with you." "But why do that?" Jacob asked. "Just let me find favor in the eyes of my Lord." 16. So that day Esau started on his way back to Seir. Jacob, however, went to Succoth, where he built a place for himself and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place is called Succoth. 18. After Jacob came from Paddan Aram, he arrived safely at the city of Shechem and Canaan, and camped within sight of the city. For 100 pieces of silver he bought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, the plot of ground where he pitched his tent. There he set up an altar and called it the Eloi.
Anytime you see El like that, it's a representative of God's name. El always represents God's name. El, like El Shaddai, like that. But El always there will represent God's name. Now this is the daughter. Starting with 34. This is where you're going to get into where there's a battle that will take place here. And when Dinah, she was Jacob's daughter, the only daughter. She decides to go out and check out the other daughters of the Hittites or Perizzites. And so when she does, the prince there sees her, likes her, and takes her in and abuses her. Then she's brought back, but he wanted to marry her, but he already broke the covenant of circumcision because those men were circumcised, and now they've abused her, and so, but he wants to marry her. So the two brothers in the story says, "Well, you can't. Why don't we take?" Or the father said, "Why don't we take your daughters and you take our daughters?" They said, "No, we can't do that." Because all the men would have to be circumcised. And so they agreed. And so the two brothers of Diana said, "Okay, you got to be circumcised." So they circumcised all the men. On the second or third day, when all the pain hit, they went in and killed them for what they did to the sister. And then there's a big upset about that and all. So this is what you're gonna see in this next part, okay?
34, and my heading is Dinah and the Shechemites. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, had born to Jacob, went out to visit the women of the land. When Shechem's son Hamor, the Hivite, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and raped her. His heart was drawn to Dinah's daughter of Jacob. He loved the young woman and spoke tenderly to her. And Shechem said to his father, Hamor, get me this girl as my wife. When Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the field with his livestock, so he did nothing about it until they came home. Then Shechem's father Hamor went out to talk with Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's sons had come in from the field as soon as they heard what had happened. They were shocked and furious because Shechem had done an outrageous thing in Israel by sleeping with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. 8. And Hamor said to them, my son Shechem has his heart set on your daughter. Please give her to him as his wife. Intermarry with us. Give us your daughters and take our daughters for yourselves. You can settle among us. The land is open to you. Live in it, trade in it, and acquire property in it. Then Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, let me find favor in your eyes. I will give you whatever you ask. Make the price for the bride and the gift I am to bring as great as you would like, and I'll pay whatever you ask me. Only give me the young woman as my wife. 13. Because her sister Dinah had been defiled, Jacob's sons replied deceitfully as they spoke to Shechem and his father Hamor. 14. They said to him, we can't do such a thing. We can't give our sister to a man who is not circumcised. That would be a disgrace to us. We will enter into an agreement with you on one condition, only that you become like us by circumcising all your males. Then we will give you our daughters and take your daughters for ourselves. We'll settle among you and become one people with you. But if you will not agree to be circumcised, we'll take our sister and go. 18. Their proposal seemed good to Hamor and his son Shechem. 19. The young man who was the most honored of all his father's family lost no time in doing what they said, because he was delighted in Jacob's daughter. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city to speak to the men of their city. These men are friendly toward us, they said. Let them live in our land and trade in it. The land has plenty of room for them. We can marry your daughters and they can marry ours. But the men will agree to live with us as one people, only on the condition that our males be circumcised, as they themselves are. Won't their livestock, their property, and all their other animals become ours? So let us agree to their terms, and they will settle among us. 24. All the men who went out of the city gate agreed with Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male in the city was circumcised. Ouch. 25, 3 days later, while all of them were still in pain, two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and attacked the unsuspecting city, killing every male. They put Hamor and his son Shechem to the sword and took Dinah from Shechem's house and left. The sons of Jacob came upon the dead bodies and looted the city where their sister had been defiled. They seized their flocks and herds and donkeys and everything else of theirs in the city and out in the fields. They carried off all their wealth and all their women and children, taking as plunder everything in the houses. 30. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "Ye have brought trouble on me by making me obnoxious to the Canaanites and Perizzians, the people living in this land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed." 31. But they replied, "Should he have treated our sister like a prostitute?"
So you see how all that went. Aren't you glad you didn't live back in those days? You know. Now, Jacob returns to Bethel is always the house of God as well. So 35. This makes it covers it pretty well, doesn't it? You can see the story how it just moved from one thing to another. Well, it just keeps going. So we'll see some more stuff. Okay.
My heading is Jacob returns to Bethel. 35. Then God said to Jacob, "Go up to Bethel and settle there and build an altar there to God."
Okay, before you go any further, let me just give you some insight, because this is where Jacob actually pronounces death over the one he loved Rachel the most, but he takes they took some idols and hid, but he actually pronounces death over her without realizing what he had done. And so when Rachel has the baby Benjamin, remember she has Joseph and Benjamin, and then Joseph is the one that will go to Pharaoh and take care of it. God is planning to take care of the whole nation from the brothers that actually put him in the pit. So, but Rachel, when she goes to have Benjamin, she dies. And she's the only one that was never buried with the rest of the family. She was buried on this trip. So as you see this, just pay attention to what words will do, because he actually pronounced her own death at all. Make sense? Mm-hmm. It will. Just start at 35 again, please.
Then God said to Jacob, "Go up to Bethel and settle there, and build an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you were fleeing from your brother Esau." So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Get rid of the foreign goods you have with you, and purify yourself and change your clothes. Then come, let us go back to Bethel, where I will build an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and who has been with me forever, wherever I have gone." So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods they had, and the rings in their ears, and Jacob buried them under the oak at Shechem,
The terebinth tree.
Then they set out, and the terror of God fell on the town all around them, so that no one pursued them. 6. Jacob and all the people with him came to Luz, that is Bethel, in the land of Canaan. There he built an altar, and he called the place El Bethel, because it was there that God revealed himself to him when he was fleeing from his brother.
See, that's where you see the EL, that's where they were there, and you see that represents God in Bethel.
8. Now Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died and was buried under the oak outside Bethel. So it was named along Bethuth.
Something like that.
9. After Jacob's return from Padan Aram, God appeared to him again and blessed him. God said to him, "Your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob, but your name will be Israel." So he named him Israel. 11. And God said to him, "I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and increase in number. A nation and a community of nations will come from you, and kings will be among your descendants. The land I gave to Abraham and Isaac I also give to you, and I will give you this land to your descendants after you." Then God went up from him at the place where he had talked with him. 14. Jacob set up a stone pillar at the place where God had talked with him, and he poured out a drink offering on it. He also poured oil on it. Jacob called the place where God had talked with him Bethel.
So you see how it follows from Abraham, Jacob, Isaac, and you see, and this very land he's talking about is where Israel has not gained all the property that they're supposed to have until it's given at the end times. So all of this is really prophetic, and so that you'll see, because they've never had all the land that they were supposed to have, but it will happen. But that's why the big fight is about Palestine and all of this is going on between Arabs and the Jews. So you're seeing history taking place, even in prophecy being fulfilled even right now, every day. Then we're going to 16.
My heading on 16 is the deaths of Rachel and Isaac. 16. Then they moved on from Bethel, while they were still some distance from Ephraim. Rachel began to give birth and had great difficulty. And as she was having great difficulty in childbirth, the midwife said to her, "Don't despair, for you have another son." As she breathed her last, for she was dying, she named her son Benoni,
Benjamin, which means Benjamin.
but his father named him
Yeah,
Benjamin.
because sometimes when they name those names like that, would have meant a child of pain. And Jacob said, "No, I want to name him Benjamin." And so he would let her name the child that would create pain, of which she died from. Because the name, the personality of the person always follows by the name that they have.
19. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephraim, that is Bethlehem. 20. Over her tomb Jacob set up a pillar, and to this day that pillar marks Rachel's tomb. 21. Israel moved on again and pitched his tent beyond Migdal el-Eder. While Israel was living in that region, Reuben went in and slept with his father's concubine, Bilhah, and Israel heard of it.
Another deception. You see this, just another deception. You see it over and over and over.
Jacob had 12 sons. The sons of Leah, Reuben, the firstborn of Jacob, Simeon, Levi, Judah,
Issachar.
Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin.
The good thing about Joseph and Benjamin, what you're saying is the pre to Joseph and Benjamin, because all these years that Joseph was bought by the trade people coming through, and God has fixed all of this in to be done, so that Joseph will be with Pharaoh, be second in command. And you see all this now starting to unfold. And then when it comes later on, when the famine comes in the land, Joseph sends for his family and all to feed them, and you'll see all of this coming up. How Joseph then eventually lets them know that he is Joseph. And so all of them come except Benjamin, because Jacob wouldn't let Benjamin go because he'd already lost Joseph. But Joseph, in order to get them to finally realize who he is, said, in order for you to come back here in this land, you got to bring Benjamin. But they still don't know who Joseph is. And then it'll all come and unfold. And so Joseph actually brings them to the land of famine, and they have what they call a place called Goshen. And that's where the whole nation of Israel will be. And Joseph brought protection to them. And the fulfillment of his dreams takes place during the 7-year famine and the 7 years of good. So you'll see all this unfold from all the way back as we move a little bit forward. That make sense? Somewhat?
24. The sons of Rachel, Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Rachel's servant, Dan and Naphtali. 26. The sons of Leah's servant, Zilpah, Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob, who were born to him in Padan Araba. Jacob came home to his father, Isaac, and Mamre, where Karakuth Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had stayed. Isaac lived 180 years. Then he breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his people, old and full of years, and as Esau and Jacob buried him.
But that's the first time you see where Esau and Jacob have come back together. Otherwise, they separated after they had come back together and brought their relationship back. You don't hear from them again until now. Then they buried their father Isaac together, which was a good thing.
This is the account of the family line of Esau, that is Edom.
Want me to go through butchering these?
You don't want to
names?
go through all of these, because this is years and years that we're talking about. Jump on down to 15, if you want.
These were the chiefs among Esau's descendants, the sons of Elipsa, the firstborn of Esau. Oh my goodness.
And it goes again all the way through. If you don't want to go through, let's go on back on down to,
37.
yeah, this is so much of that. It would probably be good for you sometimes to go look through these, but you're talking about years and years and years, so I'll jump on over to 37, where Joseph's dreams of greatness. Are y'all okay with that? Because there's so much of that, you can't pronounce all those names. Anyway. Because remember, he said, God told him, said, you're gonna have, told Jacob, you're gonna have sons and kings, and so forth, and so that's what all this is. Showing that the genealogy, you know, that you have kings and princes all within your 12 tribes, so 37.
My heading is Joseph Dreams. 37. Jacob lived in the land where his father had stayed, the land of Canaan. This is the account of Jacob's family line. Oh boy. Joseph, a young man of 17, was tending the flocks with his brothers, the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, and he brought their father a bad report about them. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in an old age, and he made an ornate robe for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. We are binding sheaves of grain out in the field, when suddenly a sheep rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." His brothers said to him, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. "Listen," he said, "I had another dream, and this time the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me."
Now you gotta realize that in this story, you have to look at him and say, he's a little bit prideful. You know, he's talking to his brothers now. And now he said, you're gonna have to bow down, because when he talks about the sheep, that's the grain. So when they bundle the grain stands up and then bows down in the dream. And then he sees, there's the other dream. This is his mother and father he's talking about the stars and the moon. So that would be a higher, that's just, he's talking now about his parents. And that they'll bow down to me too, so look what the parents say. So he's showing a little pride here too, that's not helping him any. Tim?
When he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brother actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind.
See, now this is, I mean, his dream really is gonna come true. Because we finally throw him in the pit, he gets sold and all, becomes second in command. And when the famine comes, and I've already told you this, then they have to come and they actually do this. They wind up bowing down to him, just like the dream, in this whole thing.
What I noticed about the dream, it's a direct dream.
The director,
That you don't have to interpret it.
no,
He's just telling exactly how it's going to happen, what will happen.
yeah, exactly, and then you'll see more as it goes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because like I said, again, this is years that's coming, that's ahead, the prophecy of this is what's, it's telling this is what's gonna happen. Even though he was showing a lot of pride within himself, you know, which really didn't help him any, because that just made them hate him even more. Because his dad, Jacob, gave him the coat of many colors. And so you'll see what happens there. Because then they will kill an animal, and they'll cover and just dip the coat and then take it back to Jacob and say he's been killed by a wild animal. But Reuben actually saves his life, because they were gonna kill him. So, 12.
Very strange.
12, and my heading is Joseph sold by his brothers. 12. Now his brothers had gone to graze the father's flock near Shechem, and Israel said to Joseph, as you know, your brothers are grazing the flock near Shechem. Come, I am going to send you to them. Very well, he replied. So he said to him, go and see if all is well with your brothers and with the flocks, and bring word back to me. Then he sent him off from the valley of Hebron. When Joseph arrived at Shechem, a man found him wandering around in the fields and asked him, what are you looking for? Rose, what are you looking for? I'm looking for the next page.
Should be on 16, right?
Okay. And said, come now, let me sleep with you. And what will you give me to sleep with you? She asked. I'll send you.
Wait a minute, where are you at?
I don't know.
You should be at 37, chapter 37, 16.
Should have 16.
Yeah, we're still talking about Joseph.
Yes.
While he's looking, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Joseph is the one
Here,
who's,
hold it, I found it. I don't
Joseph
know.
is the one whose mother died in childbirth
With
with
Benjamin.
Benjamin. So Benjamin's not born yet?
No, Benjamin's already died. He died back a chapter before, she died in the chapter
Cause
before.
I got confused when he said, is my mother and you, and am I and your mother gonna kneel down to you?
Yeah.
So I was a little
No,
confused.
she dies on the trip that they buried her there, and that's why whenever they go into Goshen, a little bit later, within all of his family would be buried there, but not her, because she was buried on the road from,
I just got confused when it said, what is am I and your mother gonna bow down to you? So I don't.
yeah, that would be, yeah, that's Jacob and I think Leah.
I'm getting all messed up.
Jacob, yeah, I see what you're talking about, well, I think it answers it, so. Go back to, I would go back to 12.
16.
37:12. Where Joseph sold by his brothers.
Joseph sold by his brothers. Now his brothers had gone to graze their father's flock near Shechem, and Israel said to Joseph, as you know, your brothers are grazing the flocks near Shechem. Come, I am going to send you to them. Very well, he replied. So he said to him, go and see if all is well with your brothers and with the flocks, and bring word back to me. Then he sent him off from the valley of Hebron. When Joseph arrived at Shechem, a man found him wandering around in the fields and asked him, what are you looking for? The right page. He replied, I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me where they are grazing their flock? 17. They have moved on from here, the man answered. I heard them say, let's go to Dothan.
Dothan.
So Joseph went after his brothers and found them near Dothan. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. 19. Here comes that dreamer, they said to each other. Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of the cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams.
Wow.
When Reuben heard this, he tried to rescue him from their hands. Let's not take his life, he said. Don't shed any blood. Throw him in the cistern here in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him. Reuben said this to rescue him from them. and take him back to his father. 23, so when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the ornate robe he was wearing, and they took him and threw him into the cistern.
What it was a pit, just a regular pit, but it didn't have any water in it, or else he'd have drowned. So they were just gonna leave him there, but then he gets rescued.
The cistern was empty, there was no water in it. 25, as they sat down to eat their meal, they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead.
Now, these were tribes from Ishmael.
From Ishmael.
That's where this tribe was from.
That's right, Ishmael.
Their camels was loaded with spices, balm, and myrrh, and they were on their way to take them down to Egypt. 26. Jacob said to his brothers, what will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? 27. Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood. His brothers agreed. So when the Mennonites merchants came by, his brothers pulled Joseph up out of the cistern and sold him for 20 shekels of silver.
Which is the price of a slave.
Mm.
That's what that is.
To the Ishmaelites who took him to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the cistern and saw that Joseph was not there, when Reuben returned to the cistern and saw that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes. He went back to his brothers and said, the boy isn't there. Where can I turn now? Then they got Joseph's robe, slaughtered a goat, and dipped the robe in the blood. They took the ornate robe back to their father and said, we found this. Examine it to see whether it is your son's robe. He recognized it and said, it is my son's robe. Some ferocious animal had devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces. Then Jacob tore his clothes, put on a sackcloth, and mourned for his son many days. All his sons and daughters came to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. No, he said, I will continue to mourn until I join my son in the grave. So his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Mennonites sold Joseph to Egypt to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard. Judah and Tamar, 38. At that time, Judah left his brothers and went down to stay with a man of Adullam named Herah. There Judah met the daughter of a Canaanite man named Shua. He married her and made love to her. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son who was named Ir. She conceived again and gave birth to a son and named him Onan. She gave birth to still another son and named him Shelah. It was at Kism that she gave birth to him. Judah got a wife for Ir, his firstborn, and his name was Tamar. But Ir, Jacob's firstborn, was wicked in the Lord's sight. So the Lord put him to death. 8. Then Judah said to Onan, sleep with your brother's wife and fulfill your duty to her, as a brother-in-law to raise up offspring for your brother. But Onan knew that the child would not be his, so whenever he slept with his brother's wife, he spilled his semen on the ground to keep from providing offspring for his brother. What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death also. 11. Judah then said to his daughter Tamar, live as a widow in your father's household until my son Shelah grows up. For he thought he might die from just like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in her father's household. After a long time, Judah's wife, the daughter of Shua, died. Then Judah had recovered from his grief. He went up to Timnah to the men who were shearing his sheep, and his friend Hiram, the Adalite, went with him. I'm sorry, God, for butchering these names.
Well, we all do that.
When Tamar was told, your father-in-law is on his way, so Tamar to shear his sheep. She took off her widow's clothes.
Now, this is another deception that happens again. This is interesting here, because she couldn't have the child because the other one spilled his semen on the ground to keep from that. So what she does is to stay in rank with the genealogy, then she becomes and pretends like she's a harlot. And he doesn't know that until later, but she tricks him, because instead of just taking a goat that you promised, she wants part of his sword and shield, and she hides it. And so whenever they find out what she did, then he can't kill her because she has his seal. And so you'll see it in this. So you just see deception all over the place in these things.
I don't know if I'm the only one thinking about this, but why did God put up with all this
She
deception?
didn't. He killed some of them.
Well, not some, well, yeah, some of them, but
Some of them, but not all. Because there's still more stuff coming in here that he'll still use.
so he has a plan.
Yeah, I mean, he still uses, he can still use people that's really not even a part of who he is, he can still use them. And you see that even today, that God can still use people, even though they don't believe in him, he can still use them, and you'll see that in different, so we'll see some more of this. This is kind of a blank area in here, but you'll see how she deceives him, because he sees her, she pretends like she's a harlot, and she keeps her face covered, and she don't know, then she gets pregnant, and then he comes back and finds out, and he's gonna kill her, but he can't, because she says, I have your sword. And whoever has this signet, that's who the father will be, so he can't do anything.
Yeah,
It gets kind of deep.
so what the tree is, when they're saddened, they put on ash cloth, and they put on ash cloth and mourn. What is that?
What's that?
They put on the ash cloth and mourn.
I'm not sure. Let's go on and we'll see how it comes out, then we'll go back. I think you're on 14, I think. Because this is kind of a difficult area.
I want to start at 13.
13, okay.
When Tamar was told, your father-in-law is on his way to Timnah to shear his sheep, she took off her widow's clothes, covered herself with a veil to disguise herself, and then sat down at the entrance to Enim, which is on the road to Timnah. For she saw that though Shelah had now grown up, she had not been given to him as his wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she covered her face, not realizing that she was his daughter-in-law. He went over to her by the roadside and said, "Come now, let me sleep with you." "And what will you give me to sleep with you?" she asked. "I'll send you a young goat from my flock," he said. "Will you give me something as a pledge until you send it?" she asked. He said, "What pledge should I give you?" "Your seal and its cord, and the staff in your hand," she answered. So he gave them to her and slept with her, and she became pregnant by him. After she left, she took off her veil and put on her widow's clothes again. 20. Meanwhile, Judah sent the young goat by his friend, the Adulamite, in order to get his pledge back from the woman, but he did not find her. He asked the men who lived there, "Where is the shrine prostitute who was beside the road at Edom?" "There hasn't been any shrine prostitute here," they said. So he went back to Judah and said, "I didn't find her. Besides, the men who lived there said, there hasn't been any shrine prostitute here." Then Judah said, "Let her keep what she has, or we will become a laughing stock. After all, I did not send her this young goat, but you didn't find her." About 3 months later, Judas was told, "Your daughter-in-law, Tamar, is guilty of prostitution, and as a result, she is now pregnant." Judah said, "Bring her out and have her burned to death."
She'll fix him though. She's got the proof.
The white man.
29.
What about the guy?
Yeah, because see, they had promised her the younger brother that whenever he grew up, he would marry her, but then he didn't do it. They didn't give him, so that's why she did all this. And also,
To get punished for it.
yeah. $25.
Yeah, as she was being brought out, she sent a message to her father-in-law. "I am pregnant by the man who owned these," she said. And she added, "See if you recognize whose seal and cord and staff these are." Judah recognized them and said, "She is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son Shelah, and he did not sleep with her again." 27. When the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. As she was giving birth, one of them put out his hand. So the midwife took a scarlet thread and tied it on his wrist and said, "This one came out first."
Well, then that almost reminds you of Esau and Jacob. Because they grabbed him by the heel coming out.
But when he drew back his hand, his brother came out, and she said, "So this is how you have broken out." And he was named Perez. Then his brother, who had the scarlet thread on his wrist, came out, and he was named Zerah. Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of the Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, brought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him there. 2, the Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of the Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. From the time he put him in charge of the household and of all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian.
And you'll see that, you can see that today, and we've said this a lot of different times. God puts favor on somebody, and everywhere they go and everything they do is successful. And you can go into a restaurant or somewhere, no one's there. Practically, if you sit there a few minutes, next thing you know, the anointing that follows you begins to move, and all of a sudden the place can start being busy. We've seen it happen over and over and over. And that's exactly what he's talking about here, is that Joseph, that it just follows him, because God's plan, everything was orchestrated by God from the very beginning and all. So it's interesting how you see this, and we're like before he said Joseph found favor in his sight and served him, because he gives you favor with people. Even with your enemy, he can give you favor. The people that don't even like you, and all of a sudden they'll come and give you something or do something for you. I don't even know why I'm doing this. I don't even like you. You know, that's God's favor on somebody. And I've heard pastors talk about that, where they'd say somebody would come up and hand them a wad of money and say, I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't even like you, and hand them a wad. So I've been waiting to see if that would happen. I'll take it and I'll unfold it, iron it out, whatever. But does that make sense? I mean, there's a lot of stuff here that I didn't understand all of that we just read totally, but it's all following itself, and you see how God is moving all this along and everything. So where are we at?
This
My Bible keeps falling down on me.
as John read the unfolding of the story, I see Joseph, how much he looks like Jesus in the story. From him being thrown in the pits there, then removed from that to be sold to these guys who were going to Egypt. And he is the one who is going to save the Jews. So you see this act later on. He was saving them from slavery, actual slavery, and Christ is going to save us from the real sin, so that you can see the similarity between Christ's movement, between Joseph's movement in the story and what Christ will do.
It's amazing how this, I mean, when you really start studying that, just think this Bible study has gone through the whole New Testament. And then by the time we get through here, you may not have ever read the Bible all the way through. And then our disciple class, when we get through, say, I've read the whole Bible. A lot of people don't do that in a lifetime. And also, where'd you leave off? 39.
How about 5? From the time he put him in charge of his household and of all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. So Potiphar left everything he had to Joseph's care. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Now Joseph was well built and handsome. And after a while, his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." But he refused. With me in charge, he told her, "My master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. 11. One day he went into the house to attend to his duties, and none of the household servants was inside. She caught him by his cloak and said, "Come to bed with me." But he left his cloak in her hands and ran out of the house. 13. When she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house, she called her household servants. "Look," she said to him, "this Hebrew has been brought to us to make sport of us. He came in here to sleep with me, but I screamed."
See the lie?
Big lie.
But look at two things here. Not only did she lie because she didn't get what she wanted, but look how the devil had set up just that perfect time that everybody would be out of the house. See that? So the devil had that all arranged for them to be gone. So the devil's always in the mix. And so you see this in here, that because there's still a devil out there, and he can see just that perfect time and move things around. He had those out of the way. He's in there by himself, and it's either his or her, whatever she said. And maybe you've had those things done to you. I had that happen in one of the churches that I had with the director, and said that I hugged her wrong. And I had to go before the district superintendent and prove that that was not true at all. So there's people that get planted in churches that can destroy a pastor. Or anyone. That's why we have to go through all of this training and all this stuff, even today, because it can happen in all the churches. And you can be innocent, and you can be guilty, and all. But in Joseph, he respected. Not only did he respect Potiphar, he respected God. He knew where his standing was. See the difference? But the enemy's going to put all that right in front of you, because that's what he does. And so you see what happens to him now. Here's going to be another 13 years that he's going to be in prison. You know, before he can come back out. Then it all starts all over again where he puts his family in. But do you see the whole deception here?
Yeah.
You know, not only her, but also that she's going to commit adultery or try to. And then how the enemy has set that all up. Because he hears everything. The devil doesn't know what you're thinking, but he'll put thoughts in your mind. He has that ability to do that. Okay.
I think I left off at 15.
15.
When he heard me scream for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house. 16. She kept his cloak beside her until his master came home. Then she told him this story. "That Hebrew slave you brought us came to me to make sport of me. But as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house." When his master heard the story, his wife had told him, saying, "This is how your slave treated me." He burned with anger. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did.
And that's where we'll stop for this week.
Mm.
Look how many years has gone by in these few chapters. You know, but look how, you just see how it's all unfolding, how the enemy is deceiving in through people and what they will do to gain. And then yet you see God's moving everything along.
The,
It's amazing, isn't it?
the temptation that the wife tried to get Joseph into looks like Satan trying to tempt Jesus.
You got the same thing today.
Yeah, if you do this, and I'll give you all the riches.
See, the devil don't have any new tricks because the old ones work. We just are so stupid, we fall for it. You know, but you just see how the whole thing is, how God is moving people through, even though there's all that deception, he still has purpose with what his plan is, and he's gonna get his plan done. And it goes right on to where we are this very day ourselves, so.
He loses.
It's a lot of reading, I have to thank John for all that hard reading, with, you know, names that you can hardly pronounce. And then it starts moving in now. Next week, we'll be talking about how the baker and the doorman and so forth, how they had these dreams. And Joseph interprets the dreams. And he tells the baker, I think it was, he tells him, he said, well, in 3 days you will be back out into the palace. And the other guy said, what about me? He said, in 3 days your head's gonna get cut off. So I wouldn't have wanted the answer to that one. And so he still interprets these things. And then he comes back in, and then we'll start seeing how pretty soon he starts back bringing his family into a place called Goshen. And so it's gonna get good.
So, what do you think? Some of the dreams has to be interpreted. But Joseph's dream was not interpreted, it was
Yeah.
exactly what's gonna happen.
Yeah, it will happen, because see, the dreams that he had has not come to fruition yet, but it will. When the brothers have to come looking for food in Egypt,
Yeah.
and he doesn't, they don't recognize him because so many years have gone by. And Joseph has been married, got children and so forth, but Joseph recognizes them, and he lets them come in, and he talks to them, and then he sends them back to ask about their father, Jacob, and so forth. And then he tells them, so, well, who do you have? And he sends them away, but he puts a gold cup in one of the camels or donkeys, whatever. And then he's like, they'll say, then he has them come back, so makes them come back. And they said, well, the only way you could do, you've got to stay here in prison until you know and bring back Benjamin. They still don't know who he is. And then he brings them in and he serves them and so forth like that. And then he goes into the room and cries because it's heartbreaking to him. So then he goes in and then he finally tells them who he is. And then they bow down basically to him. You know, and that's when he says, go get all my family, bring my father, bring them all, come to the land of Goshen, and they're fed, you know, the famine, because he has already built the house, the warehouses full of grain and so forth. So he fulfills his dreams and that whole thing. So it's going to get more interesting as we go. So there we have it. Who wants to? Thank you for your prayer last week, Una. You gave me the big head.
I did?
Yeah.
Well,
John said, didn't you hear what Una said about you? And also,
it's true, everything is true,
That's what I told him.
yeah.
as far as I know,
Appreciate you and, you
we
know.
haven't made the announcement on me staying or going. And so as far as we know, I've been reappointed for another year. As far as we know, haven't heard anything any different, so I would say by this time, we would have heard
Mhm.
if I were gonna be moved, so.
Right.
And we're gonna be having an SPR meeting pretty soon, too, because we've got some things we have to fill out. Let's remember Janet in prayer,
Oh.
because she's, Janet, because she's got some, real serious, tests that she's taking that she'll hear this coming week.
I'm not scared.
So hold her up in prayer, as we do other, and who, Doreen's husband, Don, you know who we're talking about? Do you know Doreen? Doreen, her husband's name is Don, I think. Anyway, there was a prayer request for him, something about a stroke and stuff this morning.
Jolene?
Yeah, that's what it said, I don't think I still have it.
Not direct.
Oh.
Not Doreen, said, maybe somebody we don't really know, but somebody had sent
Oh.
a prayer request this morning. Andy, you wanna close us in prayer?
Doreen, the kid, the person.
I don't know, I didn't really, cause I don't know everybody's name anyway.
That's her name.
Yeah, Doreen. Well, her husband's name is Don, I think he'd had a stroke or something, or has some problems with his legs or whatever, so, anyway, Janet.
Gracious Father, thank you for bringing us here this morning. And Father, guide our steps as we leave your house. Father, bless each and every one of us here to speak your word, to know you better by reading the Bible, to get closer to you. Father, we thank you. And bless those who are not here, but they do read their Bible, and they're trying to get close to you. Bless them, Father. And as we leave this place, we ask you to lead us in the way that you would like us to go. Lead us, Father. Guide us, Father. And give us all the love. In Jesus' name.
Amen.